To the bank to plead for a little more time. It was our last chance. Well, you know what banks are like. As soon as the cash stops coming in, they don't want to know. My husband had a flourishing business that suddenly went bankrupt. It was very odd the way it happened. I really do need some help on this. I've collected as much stuff down on the table as possible. As I said on the phone, our problem started with this letter.
Accordingly, we regret we must withdraw all credit facilities and in future orders delivered only on receipt of full cash payment. Blestos. Did you do a lot of business with them?
Great deal. They supplied us with some of the most expensive components we needed.
And you couldn't always pay them cash on the nail?
Not always, but there's nothing unusual about that. Business functions on credit, which is fine as long as you've got good cash flow. And we had very good cash flow.
Yeah, so without credit, you couldn't buy the components from Blestos. Without components, you couldn't meet the customer's orders, which in turn meant you couldn't buy the components from Blestos.
Exactly. And as the cash dried up, it became increasingly hard to settle with our other suppliers. It's like a disease that infects every nook and cranny of your life.
Can I take some of this stuff with me?
Yes, of course. Oh, except for those. Not really relevant.
Why not?
Oh, just domestic finance, nothing to do with the firm.
Yeah, but if I'm going to be of some help, I must know as much as possible.
It's just that they're a little embarrassing, that's all.
Fenscott Finance. Who are they?
Debt collectors.
That's not embarrassing. Washing machine, dishwasher, music centre, TV.
All on hire purchase. Tim ploughed everything back into the firm. If we wanted anything, we got it on the HP. Tim hated parting with large sums of money unless they went straight back into the business.
Well, if you missed payment on any of these, it is possible you could have found your way onto a credit blacklist, which could explain why Blesto stopped your credit facility.
I never missed a payment. Not one. And now, of course, there's money owing on it all.
And Fenscott Finance have taken on the job of reclaiming the lot.
I'm hanging on to all of this until I find out exactly what really happened. After that, they can chuck it off the suspension bridge if they like.
What was your husband working on?
The autovisual reader. I'll show it to you.
Thank you.
Apart from feeding the motorists with continuous information on things like fuel consumption and oil pressure, it monitors valve clearance, ignition timing, and even, believe it or not, engine torque.
That's good, is it?
God, it's marvelous. It means that the motorists can have the faults corrected as soon as they occur. In other words, before they damage the engine. You can have thousands of miles onto a car's life.
Oh, well, that's useful.
Useful? I should say useful. That's why we couldn't make them fast enough.
Can I have one?
Of course you can.
Where's Mr. Miller's office?
Just over in the corner.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I think it's more like. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. You have a query?
Yes. Name of Reynolds.
Nature of your query, Mr. Reynolds?
Actually, I'm not Mr. Reynolds. But Mr. Reynolds did have an account at Blesto's, and then suddenly his credit facility was stopped. And I thought perhaps you could tell me why.
But if you're not Mr. Reynolds, I can't help you. Our customers' accounts are confidential.
Well, I'm afraid Mr. Reynolds couldn't be here today. You see, he's dead. So I'm here on behalf of his wife.
I see.
I don't think you see at all. How do you assess whether or not a customer should be given credit? I mean, do you buy a blacklist, for example?
Certainly not. We obtain credit references from a highly reputable source.
Which is? Oh, come on. I mean, surely that's not confidential, Mr. Miller.
Confidata Systems.
Thank you very much. Would I be right in thinking that that terminal is directly linked to their main computer?
They perform many other services. Bankroll, stock control, personnel evaluation.
Yeah, hold on. Just let me get it straight in my mind. Now, you're checking Mr. Reynolds' account. And suddenly that nifty little terminal pops up with the news that Mr. Reynolds' credit isn't all that it should be. So, with lightning efficiency, and without a second thought, you stop all Mr. Reynolds' credit, thus causing great inconvenience to Mr. Reynolds. Now, Mr. Reynolds writes. Mr. Reynolds even calls in person. But that doesn't matter, does it, Mr. Miller? Because all the people like you are interested in are a few holes in a punch card. But if unjustified withdrawal of credit results in actual hardship, loss of business...
It doesn't have to be justified, though, does it? It's like landlords reserving a right not to serve customers. If you're an alcoholic and you can't get served in the last pub on earth, you will suffer hardship. But nobody's breaking the law. That's a nice finish.
Nice finish, Erica, it's not the finish that matters. It's your woofers and your tweeters.
What are they?
Well, they're the things that people talk about when they're not interested in football or cars.
I see.
There's a neat little system. Tuner, cassette, adequate speakers, and very reasonable.
Thank you. What about that one?
That's £796, that is.
Okay, then, let's hear it.
Ready.
Don't forget, tomorrow night at 8, Eddie Shoestring, the privateer, will unravel another mystery from the big bad world outside. That's tomorrow night at 8 on Radio West, 329 meters.
I'll take it.
You'll be wanting terms, I suppose.
Yes, terms.
It'll take a few days to clear. You'll need a guarantor.
Yes, Erica.
Oh, well, all right.
I'll get the forms.
Thank you.
It is incredibly expensive.
Oh, but I love electrical stuff, and I haven't got any. And just think how clear the scratches on your LPs will sound.
It'll take you years to pay for that.
I know. It's got a lovely finish, though, isn't it?
Could we not repeat the fiasco of the last school outing? No fighting,
What you looking
no
at me for?
arguing, and no interrupting
sick.
with facetious remarks, Sullivan. And if anything goes missing, all of you... Good morning.
This way?
Yes, surely. Come on. Lads, come on. Sullivan, don't be slow.
Sir?
Yes, sorry I'm a bit late. I was just parking the school minibus.
They said one member of staff, sir.
Well, we always work in pairs.
I see what you mean.
Thank you. Hi. Right, this is the floor.
Oh, good. Excuse me. Come on. Sullivan, argue with him later. Come on, come through. Right. You'll have noticed, all of you, that we had to come through an airlock. An airlock. Good morning. Now, no cigarettes, Sullivan, not here. Pick it up. Now, who can remind us of the binary system of counting?
Hi. Excuse me. Don't tell me, it's,
Dave Richmond.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it... I wonder if you could help me.
You with the school kids?
Yes, I am. I know this sounds silly, but a friend of mine that's a fellow teacher, he actually lost his credit facilities, and apparently the information came from this particular centre. I mean, it wouldn't be possible to have a look at his records.
Certainly not. It's strictly confidential. Anyway, take me half an hour to find the tape.
Come on, with all this rapid response gear lying around.
Oh, I see. Read your Teach Yourself Computers book, have you?
Okay, doesn't matter. Forget it.
Just a minute. I know you. Eddie, isn't it? You're the lunatic who took a hammer to a room full of CL308s a couple of years ago. Listen, I don't know how you got in here, but you better leave now, before I call security.
If it's Confidata Systems, I doubt there's been a mistake. They're one of the biggest computer firms in the country. They're even setting up a system for the European Parliament.
Yeah, but they can still make mistakes. And when the mistake results in bankruptcy and suicide, I think it's worth looking into. Anyway, how come you know so much about Confidata?
Radio West is a client.
What do you mean?
Who, Sonia? Oh, God. All right, put him through.
You mean Radio West gets information?
Roger, super to hear from you.
What sort of information?
Yeah, I'd love to. 7:30 for 8? Look forward to it. Bye.
Why does Radio West deal with Confidata?
Running a radio station costs money. It's my job to see that that money is properly used. Hence, we use computers for Program budgets, wages, personnel evaluation.
Radio West uses a computer for personnel evaluation.
Eddie, I don't want you waging a one-man war against computers in our time. Try and forget what happened to you in your past life.
Okay, well, you just do me one favor, then. You see if you can get a credit reference on Tim Reynolds from Confidata. All right?
Right, if you'd like to sit and wait over there.
Here's the phone.
Lovely, sir.
Hi, Eric, it's me.
Oh, what happened to you last night?
Huh? Oh, I spent the night on my boat. Look, I wonder if you could do me a little favor.
What?
Criminal record search.
Nope.
Oh, please, Erica, come on.
No.
I tell you what, I'll let you play your speeches of Winston Churchill on my new stereo.
That is a really great offer.
Are you ready?
Ready.
The name is Benny Hunter. And it'll be about 6 or 7 years ago.
Mrs. Reynolds?
Yes?
My name's Joyce Walsh from Fenscott Finance.
In that case, I have nothing to say to you. If your letters are anything to go by.
Oh, that's exactly why I'm here, Mrs. Reynolds. To apologise about the letters. I'm afraid they gave a wrong impression. If I might just come in and explain?
Yes, right.
Thank you.
Wait a minute, you didn't say there were two of you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. This is my assistant, Mr. Parker. This way, is it, Mrs. Reynolds?
Yes. Excuse me. Would you like to sit down?
Thank you.
Right.
The thing is, Mrs. Reynolds, we like to expedite these matters without recourse to the law.
I know the law. You can't repossess any of my belongings without a court order.
Exactly. So if we can come to an agreement without all that red tape, it makes for far less unpleasantness on all sides.
Will you tell that man to leave my things alone?
Don't get stroppy with me, darling.
I'm afraid Mr. Parker doesn't fully understand the diplomatic side of our work.
I'd like you to leave my house now, before I call the police.
I quite understand your feelings, Mrs. Reynolds. We'll leave at once. I would be grateful if you'd sign this form, though. It merely confirms that we called. For my superiors, you understand?
What kind of idiot do you take me for? If I sign this form... Come in. These people force their way in here.
Who's this? The new boyfriend? You don't hang about, darling, do you?
Would you mind getting out, please?
I regret to say it, Mrs. Reynolds, but this matter will have to be settled sooner or later.
Repossession is a nasty business. I mean, it's your own fault for being greedy, isn't it? Very nasty things can happen to people.
I am a witness to you threatening her.
Oh, that's a little strong, I think. Mr. Parker was merely indicating to Mrs. Reynolds the severity of her situation. See you again, Mrs. Reynolds.
They tried to get me to sign this.
Voluntary requisition order. Well, if you'd have signed this, they could have taken everything. Legally. But if they've been giving you a hard time, that's harassment. And you should lodge a complaint.
What's the point? The man was right. I'm up to my neck in arrears. Why should anyone sympathise?
But, Nick, it is a clear-cut case of harassment.
Look, Eddie, I've got a rape. I've got a bank snatch. I've got a key witness who's about to start a new life in a motorway flyover, and you're asking me for 2 uniformed inspectors to guard a coloured TV. Come and see me in a couple of days with an official complaint.
So it's self-help week, is it?
Madness there, and making sure they don't miss the night boat to Cairo. Now, yesterday out west, tomorrow will be 10 minutes earlier than it was yesterday. The day after that, however, yesterday out west will be at the same time as yesterday.
Stu, I thought I told you not to let that idiot write his own links.
Don, your mic is switched through to the studio.
Good.
Go on.
Oh, yeah. Tim Reynolds, credit reference.
Great.
That's one little mystery solved. There's always a reason, Eddie.
No.
Oh, yes. One bad debt to a garage. Maybe he had a paint spray he couldn't afford.
Yeah, but this debt was incurred nearly 12 years ago.
But that doesn't make it a good debt, does it? Drop it, Eddie. Get on with something that deserves Radio West's time and money. Which reminds me, I've not seen your script for tonight.
Huh? Oh, neither have I. It's something to do with social clubs and trips to France that cost double the odds. Look, the date code for the entry of this is only 12 months ago.
Maybe it cropped up on another program, another computer. Maybe CDS got a new client who filed it. These things rear their ugly heads sooner or later. You're the computer expert, Eddie. That date code doesn't mean a thing, does it?
Well, yeah, I mean, it means we know why Tim Reynolds lost his credit rating.
But that doesn't mean that the information is incorrect, does it? It's unfortunate.
Unfortunate? You think it's just unfortunate that Tim Reynolds committed suicide because a debt suddenly appeared from nowhere on a computer tape?
Mm-hmm.
You amaze me. All I want to know is it right?
Not exactly. Tim owed a garage £200. The proprietor was a crook. He did work on the car that was completely unnecessary and sent Tim a very large bill. The car was only £50. Tim was a student, he had no money, and it took 5 months of solicitors' letters to clear it up. But in no way did he incur a bad debt. He was completely exonerated.
But someone somewhere stuck it on a list 12 years later.
Oh, well, that's it then.
Well, not exactly. I want to know why someone stuck it on a list. And you're still being pestered by Fenscott Finance.
What can happen now? Next time they come round, they can have the lot.
Oh, come on, Mary. We can deal with Fenscott Finance. But it does mean you'll have to let them into your house just one more time. Okay?
Okay.
That's great. Now, have you got anywhere we can put this? Good morning. Is this Fenscott Finance?
For the third time today, this is an accommodation address. Lots of firms use us. We just collect their mail and put it in the pigeonholes, right?
Yeah, all right. Well, what's their real address?
I don't know. A messenger comes in twice a day and picks up their mail. That's all I know. He should be here in the next half hour or so.
Okay, thanks. Hi, are you the guy that collects Fenscott's mail?
Yeah?
Great, I wonder if you could give him this.
Too big for my bike, mate. Delivery contracts with office services only.
Well, couldn't you stick it on the back there? Oh, I suppose I'll have to take it round myself. Well, where can I find them?
Straight down the bottom, round the roundabout, under the railway bridge, big building, and Fenscott are in the quarter main office.
Thank you very much. Hi, is this Quartermain Investments?
Yes.
Ah, good. Can I see your boss, please?
Mr. Parry, he's very busy.
Yeah, well, actually, it's about a mutual friend who's deceased.
Oh, I see. Who shall I say?
Shoestring.
I'm Mr. Shoestring to see you, Mr. Parry. It's urgent. Okay. You'll see you in a minute.
Thank you.
You're the Eddie Shoestring on the radio, aren't you?
Yes.
Funny. You're not as tall as I expected.
Oh. I'm sorry.
Hello? Yes, okay. You'll see you now. Second door on the right.
Great, thanks.
Shoestring, Radio West?
That's right, yeah. I wanted to ask you a few questions about Fenscott Finance.
Fenscott? Couldn't tell you much about them, pal.
Yeah, except that their mail is delivered to this office.
They're registered as a separate company. The mail is for convenience, right?
Well, I have a client called Mrs. Reynolds who's being harassed by Fenscott Finance.
Listen, Shoestring, those Fenscott people are self-employed.
Now, nobody, least of all me, is answerable for their actions, right? They buy up debts cheap. Now, the quicker they collect, the more profit they make. That's business, right?
Wrong, because the way they go about it is illegal.
This Mrs. Reynolds, let me guess. She's in debt, owes people money. Well, what about them, eh? There's one thing gets up my nose, is people whining because they burnt their fingers. Or getting other people to do the whining for them.
There are laws.
Oh, you want a law? I'll give you the law. There's one called utmost good faith, in which two parties, the customer and the hire purchase company, enter into an agreement based on credit reliability. Now, if it goes wrong because of some hidden blemish on the customer's side, then it's no longer good faith, but utmost bad faith.
Yeah, and it's utmost bad manners for Fenscott Finance to employ thugs.
Now, let me give you another bit of law. There is no legal connection between Fenscott Finance and Quartermain Investment. So why don't you stop wasting my time and go and find some drunk old phony floozy a morning bottle of sherry. Now get out before I chuck you out. And don't think I wouldn't enjoy that, right? Rogers, Parry here. Listen, you better hold that offer to the Reynolds widow for a couple of days. This afternoon? Look, I've had this snooper round, asking about Joyce Walsh and Parker. He's working for Mrs. Reynolds.
Hi, Mary. Didn't you used to have an account once with a company called Ubitronics?
That's funny. I had a phone call from them earlier on. Eddie, it's Mrs. Walsh and Parker. I must go.
Good of you to see us, Mrs. Reynolds.
I didn't have much choice, did I?
You've got the wrong idea about us, Mrs. Reynolds.
Yeah, we do an honest day's work. We're very kind to animals and old ladies.
Say what you want to say and then get out.
The situation's very simple. We can get a court order to repossess your belongings. We can even call in the bailiffs. That takes time and money. Makes our modest profit even smaller, and that makes us a little irritable.
So you put your mark on this nice little requisition order and we'll be in and out of here so quiet you won't even notice us.
Don't make the situation any worse by being stubborn, Mrs. Reynolds.
People get a bit upset having to hand their possessions over. They even smash them up sometimes. It's what your old man used to make.
Put that down.
I ought to warn you, Mrs. Reynolds, that malicious damage to hire purchase property is an offence.
Yeah. You can end up doing time for that.
I assure you, I have no intention of damaging my property.
Oh, you might not, darling.
Get out, both of you!
Sounds as if the tape is comprehensive.
It is. It's a perfect example of violence and harassment.
So Mary Reynolds accepted the offer from Ubitronics?
No, she didn't, thank God. I told her to stall them for a couple of days. It's a lousy offer anyway. But understandably, she was tempted because she could get Fenscott Finance off her back. But I think it's time they had a bit of airtime. I'll see you.
329 Radio.
What's he playing at? He's cut that short by 3 minutes.
I just want a couple of minutes to talk to you about debt collectors. That's not a very pleasant job, but someone's got to do it, and most of them are very straight about it. But you'll always find a few cowboys doing things their own way, which means illegally. I'm going to play you part of a recording which features a firm of debt collectors called Fenscott Finance.
People get a bit upset having to hand their possessions over. They even smash them up sometimes. It's what your old man...
He's got to stop doing this to me.
I ought to warn you, Mrs. Reynolds, that malicious damage to hire purchase property is an offence.
Yeah. You can end up doing time for that.
I assure you, I have no intention of damaging my property.
Oh, you might not, darling.
Good, that. You don't understand, do you?
Get out,
This could be trouble.
I'll see to Mr. Shoestring tomorrow.
Never leave any marks or anything like that.
I think you put Mrs. Reynolds in the picture. Perhaps you might consider signing this now, Mrs. Reynolds.
You should have played this over to me first.
But you're so busy, Nick. That's what you said, remember?
All right, Eddie. It is the kind of thing Radio West ought to draw the public's attention to. But we must check things before they go on the air.
Mrs. Reynolds will be making a complaint?
Of course. On your desk, first thing.
Thanks, Don.
Thank you.
Allow me. Goodbye. Sorry to have interrupted your game, Don. See you.
Eddie, another batch of calls for you.
Thank you.
You've been giving Mr. Satchley a hard time again, haven't you? I can tell by the swing in your moody shuffle.
Is it part of the receptionist diploma course to be deeply offensive?
Yes, but only when it's a gesture of affection.
Who the hell are you?
He's that jokey private eye from Radio West.
Really? Well, your boss, Don Satchley, is a very good friend of mine. He drops around to use my pool.
I'm not interested in horror stories about your social life.
He'll be very upset if I tell him you've been bothering me.
Do you want me to have him thrown out?
Not yet, no. Let's hear what's on his mind first.
Your company, Ubitronics, have put in an offer to an alien electronics firm. 2 individuals involved in that firm have been hassled by an outfit called Fenscott Finance. Now, Fenscott Finance operate under the umbrella of Mr. Parry's firm, Quartermain Investments. Now, when I call on Ubitronics, here's Mr. Parry messing up your carpet. It makes you think, doesn't it? What exactly is the connection, Mr. Rogers?
There are a lot of firms operating in this building. Mr. Parry happens to be a friend of mine.
A friend of yours? It's worse than I thought. You know, your social life is falling apart at the seams.
And I can assure you, if a firm I'm interested in is having a bad time, I'll know about it before he does. Now, if you don't mind, would you show him out?
No, it's all right, it's all right. You've put my mind at rest.
Have Joyce, Walsh and Parker been picked up yet?
No, they keep him well out of the way.
It's Mrs. Walsh's fault. You should control that animal she works with.
Don't start getting coy about their method. That's why I hired them, Rogers, under your instructions.
Radio broadcasts. If that's tied in with me, that could be a bad scene for you, Parry.
Nobody gets clobbered except Walsh and Parker. I've got it all sewn up.
Well, there's one person who can unsew it, as you very well know.
You mean our little friend, the computer wizard? He's so tied up he don't blow his nose without permission. Anyway, I saw him this morning.
Well, here.
Yeah, here.
Parry, if any of this comes out, I swear I'll...
What, throw a microchip at me?
Are you in touch with Walsh and Parker?
Yeah.
Then you know what to tell them to do. And don't come to this office anymore. Use the phone.
It'll be a pleasure.
You left the keys. What are you doing here anyway? Have you got the afternoon off?
That's right. All the villains have bought bars on the Costa Brava and the police force has been disbanded. Got a present for you.
Tremendous. Erica, if a firm conspired with a debt-collecting agency to ruin a flourishing business so that it could be bought up cheaply, what would that be? I don't know, conspiracy to defraud?
Well, to prove conspiracy, you've got to pinpoint where the illegality took place, if at all. I mean, there are all sorts of ways of buying up companies. Some of them aren't exactly cricket, but they are legal. Are you talking about the Reynolds business?
Of course I'm talking about the Reynolds business.
But I thought that was all over. McGrath is going to check out Fenscott Finance. You ferreted out a bad debt.
Yeah. And there's still a couple of complacent sharks sitting up in an office block. Don't make a scene, Dave. I just want a quick word. How are Parry and Rogers?
Never heard of them.
Oh, really? Never heard of him. Well, what about this? Benny Hunter, born March 1942. Height, 5 feet 10. Color of hair, dark brown.
What is this?
Imprisoned 1972-74, selling confidential computer information. You see, you only remember me because I smashed up a room full of computers. You don't remember a systems analyst who was once called to help you sort out a few problems. Me.
All right. What do you want?
10 minutes overtime. You can sort it out with your manager.
I am the manager.
Well, there's no problem then, is there?
By the way, it wasn't one of my systems you ripped off, was it? I mean, one still has one's professional pride, you know?
As it happens, no.
Is that the central processor?
Yes?
Take a seat. Sit down. Now, I want 2 names removed from that credit blacklist. Tim Reynolds and Mary Reynolds.
I can't do that.
You've got no choice. You're a manager working with CDS under a false name with forged references. Your feet wouldn't touch the ground.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, and while you're at it, I want a 5-star credit rating for Mary Reynolds.
Eddie!
Just do it. And remember, I used to work with these things once. It says it's got my name on it.
You're a Radio West person, aren't you? Bad news.
Get on with it.
Just one more thing, Dave, and then you're through. Chat with the police.
Leave it alone, Eddie. You'll get me crippled.
Who by? Parry and Rogers?
I didn't say that.
That's exactly what we need to talk about, isn't it? Take a seat, Dave.
Please don't hurt me. I'm telling you, you can't prove anything honest.
That's the ideal situation we're working towards, Dave.
Is it deep enough?
With this inside him, he'd drown in a heavy dew.
Right, you go and sit in the car. And if you see anybody, hit the horn.
Very well.
Free drinks, you lucky sod.
Roger's informed Confidata of your real identity first thing this morning. And you, stricken with grief at losing your respectable role in society, takes your miserable little self off to an isolated spot and guzzles more scotch than you can handle.
with tragic consequences.
You can't make me drink any more of that stuff.
Want a bet?
Shoestring's here.
You heard her.
Hello, Shoestring.
Yeah?
It doesn't bring Tim back. But at least I know the nasty situation he was up against.
Thanks to Eddie's dishonest computer friend Dave.
He's no friend of mine. I never kept in touch with anyone. I had enough of it all when I was there.
You see, Dave, alias Benny Hunter, was in prison at one time.
He's there again now, isn't he? It's better than being drowned, though, I suppose.
The last time he came out of prison, he tried to set himself up in business, but he was absolutely useless. So he just got into heavy debt.
Yeah, and Rogers got onto him via Fenscott Finance, settled his debts, and gave him false references.
Then he landed his job at CDS, where he started cooking the computer.
Knowing those people, I bet he had no choice.
He didn't. Rogers realized he could ruin small businesses like your husband's by getting Dave to feed false information about bad debts into the computer. And then Parry would move in with Fenscott Finance.
And Mrs. Walsh and that nutter Parker would soften them up.
Yeah, to the point where Rogers and his Ubitronics company would make a ridiculously low offer, knowing that it would be snapped up in desperation.
You saved me from that one, Eddie. Thanks.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I think it's a very good invention. What happened to that offer of yours?
Oh, yes. Small firm on the same trading estate. They're taking over the business, and they're appointing me as a director. Oh, nearly forgot. I wanted to say thanks in a more tangible way. Tim's car monitor. I promise you one.
Well, heaven knows what that will say about Eddie's car, the way he drives.
That's tremendous. Thank you very much. Their collecting stinks. It's a miserable line of work. I had enough of it when I was on my own, dabbling about. I did occasionally pay the rent.
You never mentioned it to Mary Reynolds.
I don't usually mention it to anybody. I hated it so much that when I knocked on the door and the people were out, I just tore up the Ritz, spent the rest of the day painting my boat.
Good for you. I absolutely agree. And that's from a lawyer.
Yeah, but I spent a lot of time broke because of it. It's ridiculous. Come to think of it, I'm still broke. We can't always be.
excited about your new stereo.
Just be out of my mind. £20 a month. I haven't even got new records.
Yes?
Oh, yes, I've come to pick up my new stereo.
Oh, Shoestring, isn't it? I listen to you sometimes, when there's nothing on the telly.
That's very nice to meet a dedicated listener.
About the stereo. The hire purchase company have turned down your application.
What, you mean I can't have it?
That's right.
Can you see?